Hey Siri, talk to book.
What would you like to ask?
What are the main themes of the book?
On it. Still working. The main themes of the book are the difficulty of distinguishing between sensible good reasons and expert opinions versus human imagination and social psychology when it comes to major markets. The lack of understanding of the true value of investments, the rate of increase of prices during a bubble, and the re-evaluation of opinions as the bubble continues. Anything else?
What does the book say about the re-evaluations of opinions as the bubble worsens?
One sec. The book is warning that revaluations in the stock and bond markets, as well as the housing market, have reached high levels and are increasing rapidly in many countries. It is suggesting that this bubbly and unstable situation warrants some concern, although not yet as extreme as when the first and second editions of the book issued warnings about the overpriced and vulnerable stock and housing markets. Anything else?
Does the book talk about psychological factors influencing housing market booms?
One sec. No, the book does not talk about psychological factors influencing housing market booms. The survey results indicate that the general public does not believe that psychological feedback drives market prices. Instead, the book suggests that economic or demographic conditions such as population changes, changes in interest rates or employment growth, or decline, are more likely to be the cause of the housing boom. Anything else?
What are some of the psychological factors the book says cause stock market booms? And why are stock market booms different from housing market booms with regards to psychological factors?
On it. Working on that. The book argues that psychological factors play a major role in stock market booms. Chapter 9 argues that, since the true value of the markets is so difficult to compute, the public relies on psychological anchors for market value. Chapter 10 describes results from social psychology and sociology that help explain why so many people change their opinions at the same time. Stock market booms and housing market booms differ in terms of psychological factors in that the public's reliance on psychological anchors for market value is more pronounced in the stock market. This is because the true value of the stock market is more difficult to compute than the true value of the housing market. Additionally, the news media amplifies stories that have resonance with investors, often regardless of their validity, which further reinforces the structure of the speculative bubble in the stock market. Anything else?
What are some of the psychological anchors that the book says are used as to why a lot of people change their mind about the stock market at the same time?
One sec. Still working. Some of the psychological anchors that the book mentions are quantitative anchors, which provide indications for the appropriate levels of the market that some people use as indications of whether the market is over or underpriced and whether it is a good time to buy. Additionally, the book mentions that there are patterns of human behavior that suggest anchors for the market that would not be expected if markets worked entirely rationally. These patterns of human behavior are not the result of extreme human ignorance, but rather of the character of human intelligence, reflecting its limitations as well as its strengths. Anything else?
What are some of the reflections of human character that play into the psychological anchors that we see in terms of human limitations?
One moment. Some of the reflections of human character in the plan to the psychological anchors include the tendency to rely on numbers and prices to make decisions, the need to weigh the argument for investing against their current wealth and needs, and the susceptibility to be influenced by suggestions given on questionnaires. Anything else?
What does the susceptibility to be influenced by questions on questionnaires have to do with investing in the market?
One moment. The susceptibility to be influenced by questions in questionnaires can be indicative of the kind of active investors who are likely to influence markets. This means that the respondents of the questionnaire may be more representative of the investors who are behind the stock market boom than a truly random group of wealthy respondents. Anything else?
Does the book talk at all about housing policy or the social impact of housing market booms with regards to wealth inequality or people not being able to afford houses or to rent properties?
On it. Yes, the book does talk about housing policy and the social impact of housing market booms. It mentions rent control and a housing cooperative movement, which are both forms of government intervention in the housing market. It also mentions people's increasing commitment to market solutions to economic problems, which has led to people worrying more about the possible instability in home prices and thus being more prone to the kind of feedback that generates bubbles. This has an impact on people's ability to afford houses or to rent properties. Anything else?
Does the book say that rent control is an effective mechanism for housing affordability? Or does it recommend any other government interventions?
No, the book does not say that rent control is an effective mechanism. It states that rent control and housing cooperatives were created out of an idealistic ideology, but that this ideology is mostly gone and that people are now more prone to worrying about the possible instability in home prices. Anything else?
What does the book suggest is the best form of government intervention for housing affordability?
One moment. The book does not suggest any particular form of government intervention for housing affordability. Instead, it suggests that prior to the last decades of the 20th century, public attention focused on rent control and housing cooperatives as a form of collective intervention in markets. However, it also suggests that with the increasing public commitment to market solutions to economic problems, people are more prone to the kind of feedback that generates bubbles. Therefore, the best form of government intervention for housing affordability may depend on the specific context and the goals of the intervention. Anything else?
What does the book say investors usually do when they lose a lot of money when a boom crashes? In terms of the investor behavior, what do investors do after they've lost money?
One moment. Still working. The book suggests that investors usually become more risk averse after they have lost money in a market crash. This is supported by Richard H. Thaler and Eric J. Johnson's study, which found that prior outcomes had an effect on risky choice. Additionally, John Kenneth Galbraith's book The Great Crash, 1929, suggests that investors become more cautious after a crash. Data from the National Association of Investors Corporation website also supports this, as it shows that investor clubs have seen a decrease in activity since the 2008 financial crisis. Finally, Brad M. Barber and Terence Odian's study on online investors found that those who had lost money were more likely to reduce their risk-taking. This is further supported by psychological theories such as Nicholas Barberus, Andre Schliefer, and Robert Vishney's model of investor sentiment, as well as John Campbell and John Cochrane's theory of habit formation. Anything else?
Are there any signs that you can see of psychology turning, investor psychology changing? What are the signs?
One sec. Yes, there are signs that investor psychology is changing due to psychological impacts. Those who previously predicted a decline in the stock market have become aware of their losses in reputation from being wrong so often. This has caused them to want to settle on a different view or present themselves to the public with a different theme. This changed emotional environment has likely had an effect on investor psychology. Anything else?
So is the book saying that the media, when they change their mind, that's sort of a beacon or sign that there will be a shift in psychology in the general investor population?
One moment. No, the book is not saying that the media can change people's minds and create a shift in psychology in the general population. The book is discussing how speculative market expansions are often associated with popular perceptions that the future is brighter or less uncertain than it was in the past. It is also discussing how the media can foster stronger feedback from past price changes to further price changes, and how they can foster another sequence of events referred to as an attention cascade. Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you very much.